Hi guys, sorry I'm 5 minutes late, but yeah, my book is out today. Um, it's so nice, guys. Like this is the hardcover. She is so nice, and and I'm so happy. Look at this. This is the hardcover, and this is the paperback. It's kind of sad that the covers are what's it called, inverted in the camera, but if you see, it's really nice. We had a little delay the other day, but everything is now back on track, and with the finished edition, we have 175 pages, and I have talked about this yesterday in my last 2 lives and the day before, and I talked about how I spent basically the last 5 years, not necessarily like the 5 years to be writing the book, but more of like the research, the brainstorm, coming up with like a good plan to even write the book, coming up with, I don't want to say like the courage, but more like the discipline to write the book. So that is pretty exciting, and I'm so happy that finally, after so many attempts, come to fruition. Let me see if I can put this in the background while we talk today. Yay! So yeah, I don't know what else I can say that will maybe like add on to the conversation that I've already spoken about the last 2 days. Yesterday I talked about like my journey with perfectionism and like how honestly I still struggle with that sometimes, and I think sometimes it can be annoying when people hear like perfectionism because they think that like the person is bragging, and I'm not trying to brag. I actually like feel like it's actually a pretty suffering / painful place to be at, because people who have those tendencies like make themselves wrong for a lot of things, and we're really harsh on ourselves. So I hope that this book can not only be like an enjoyable read for you, and that you come to like the characters, but also that this can be like help people who have struggles with like mental health or depression, because the character has depression, feel seen. I know that was one of my main motivations to write this book. First off, that I myself have experienced depression in the past, and I have not yet found a book that talk about the experience like honestly, especially from the experience of like an Asian woman, or someone who maybe is like very well functioning, but she still feels that way on the inside. And the book is not just about that, and one of my reviewers were very smart and gracious in like explaining how like the point in the book is not just to talk about the themes and make a point about the themes like trauma dumping on people, but also to tell the story of this one character honestly, and to walk us through like her life as she goes through her first year of college, as she goes to Paris, and as she experiences like coming of age. And I think it is very common for us to experience, like I feel like everybody has a very memorable memory of themselves when they went through coming of age. And I hope that even though this book is about a specific character, that when you read this book, you can also be transported back into that part of your life. And that actually has been one of the biggest joys since releasing the book, and getting feedback from people, is people who may not look like me, and they come from like very different communities, or different racial communities, different cultural backgrounds. even though we are so different, like my early readers have all told me how much they resonate with themes of the book. And it's funny because that's something that I used to worry about a lot, which is that like, are people like are people gonna like this book if they don't have depression? Honestly, that's one of the bigger questions that I was worried about when I wrote the book, because it's a very particular experience and it's a very unique experience, and I didn't want maybe like that quote unquote like darker theme or grayer theme to be pulling the book down, or maybe like to make it hard for people to comprehend or hard for people to enter. So let me take a sip of water. Ooh. Okay. Something else that I want to talk about today as well, as I mentioned in my newsletter, which if you're not on, you have to get on it, because I share a lot of fun news about the Napper. I share a giveaway with like tote bags and signed hard copies, and I also share exclusive invite to my New York book launch party happening in September. So that's all happening. So get on the newsletter. But going back to my topic of let's say how to embrace your voice as a writer. And I think we each have such a unique voice, and I think even though it took me a while to hone in on my voice, and I even had some shame about embracing my particular voice, because my sentences, like my husband or my readers usually point out, is very short and curt, and I used to think that like the serious writers would write like longer paragraph length sentences that maybe in my opinion were like more elaborate and more exquisite. But I've heard recently from people who just read it, they've actually really enjoyed my voice, and I wish I had known that better, to just embrace my own particular unique style. And if you're a writer watching this, I think there's a place obviously to improve your craft, and I'm not dismissing that. I think it's so wonderful that we have access to education. It's such a privilege. And at the same time, if there's something that you can't seem to change, or if there's a way that you just naturally orientate yourself towards, maybe take it as a sign that it might not be all that bad, and maybe there's some people out there who actually want your voice exactly the way that you want to share your story in. So that's a point that I just want to get across, especially for my writers or people who may be following me and they want to be an author themselves. Sip of water. Okay, so more inside look on the Napper. Maybe I'll read for you a section in the book, and it's funny because I was not gonna read anything from the book, but my friend, who is also an early reader, just texted me that she enjoyed the book so much, and she gave me a quote from the book, and let's see if I can find that exact spot in the book, because it's actually pretty fun. So let's see. Okay, watch me not find that section. Oh my gosh, I wish I marked this before I went on this live. Let's see if I can find it. Hi Alex. I'm just in the middle of reading a passage from the book, but I'm trying to find that passage, but I think I lost it. Lols. I think we're getting closer to that passage. Um, do, 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 do. I'm just gonna read this passage that my friend actually points out, and it was I actually had fun writing this passage, so it's gonna make me happy to read it. So it says, the Musée d'Orsay was housed in a repurposed subway building. We walked through like two fishes swimming in an aquarium. We climbed through the stairs to the infamous Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe. Isn't it great? I said. Oscar nodded. Why is it so famous, I wonder? Anything that Manet touches is famous. But put a naked woman anywhere and ... I like that it is like they're situated in the mystical jungle somewhere, even though I know it's supposed to be a public park. I suggested that we go to a park later to recreate the scene, adding, Jardin de Luxembourg is too prim and proper to resemble the park. And no naked lady, he quipped. We walked through the halls of the museum, neither slowly nor briskly, but at just the right pace to take a bit of everything in. I wanted to ask Oscar if he felt like a figure in a Manet painting, because I did all the time. I felt like time was imprinting itself on me. I was a Vietnamese woman studying in Paris and spending the summer in Paris, things which had felt out of reach for many Vietnamese parents, but that I took for granted. What would Manet draw if he was drawing me? Would my face resemble the woman in a bar at the Folies Bergère? Looking straight at the viewer, her face flushed, her lips pursed, the rowdy bar before her. Feeling distressed but needing to stay calm for her job, I had read somewhere that Manet encouraged his students to follow their intuition and paint what they wanted rather than what was fashionable according to the artistic convention at the time. So that was a short passage from the book. This was on page 148, but actually in the official copy, because this is an advanced copy, it might be a bit earlier than that. So if you like what you read so far, go grab yourself your own copy. All the links are in my bio. And yeah, I'm so happy. Thank you so much to my wonderful cover designer, Zuza. She's so great. And I'm so grateful that everything came together. Shout out to Eponymous Press, the publishing company that published me, and so many other great writers. It's a small press in Brooklyn, and we're very thrilled to be publishing people who write amazing fiction and hopefully one day nonfiction. May also grab another sip of water. If you can't tell, I'm kind of scorched today. I think preparing for all this book launch stuff has made me like so thirsty. Let's see. What else can I say about voice and using voice? Actually, this is a funny story, and I feel like some of the writers, again, or creatives will relate with me on this, but last year I was finishing my last semester in my fiction MFA workshop, and we the way that a fiction workshop works is we share our stories around the table, and then people give other people feedback, and usually someone is assigned a certain week, and then the people around the table like give that person feedback. So one time I turned in, I don't know if it was an exact chapter as in like the published version of the Napper, but I turned in a chapter from the Napper, and this one guy, of course, a white guy, lol, no judgment, but also like I'm always surprised. He raised his hand, and after reading like my couple of pages, he was like, anybody can write this, which at the time kind of irked me, not gonna lie. I was just like, are you a Vietnamese woman as well? Which is lol. But then actually, I think something that I took away from that point is, when you're creative, like people are always gonna project stuff onto you, especially if there are other fellow creatives, which is why it's a funny dynamic. But and the thing is, writers can also be like some of the most supportive people ever. I know a lot of writers support me, and I try to do my best for them as well. But this is an example of what I was talking about with regards to voice. Like, someone else might someone else might think that like your voice is like so, you know, cliche even, or your voice is, I don't know, like the guy was like, oh, anybody can write this, but like, can he really write like these very curt to the point sentences that is how I naturally write, at least at this moment in time. So just beware of like, if you're in like a writing program, the amount of like feedback you get, and make sure that you develop a sense of like artistic or creative authority, hint hint, to decipher like what voice to trust and which voice to let go of. And I think obviously if you're lucky enough to be in a creative writing program, or if you're lucky enough to have found a writing coach or a writing mentor that you really trust and believe in, sometimes it's amazing to have that support. But not all of us are lucky enough to have that. Like I'm, you know, very lucky to have had the time and experience to do that. But I think for people who either are no longer in their programs, or they're just, you know, they have other professions and they still want to practice writing or another creative craft, just know that like the more that you can hone in on your voice, like that is what the world is hungry for. And I love mainstream books. Anyone who knows me or live with me will know that like I love to read like the more like trashy books, or okay, I take that back. They're not trashy, but you know what I mean. Like they're more like fast paced. They're like beach read. They're like airport read, and I love those books because sometimes I just want to like read something with like a lot of suspense, and I love to read my like, you know, 300 page, 500 pages literary fiction. Like I love that stuff as well. But what I'm trying to say is like there is a place for anything. And so maybe you're a literary fiction writer like me, who maybe one day wants to write like a more mainstream book. But does that mean that I have to repress the part of me that like naturally writes in a more literary fiction way? I don't think so. And just look at my babies. They're so cute. Yeah, so I hope this was a short and sweet conversation about voice, and I hope that you get yourself a copy of the Napper. And I also really, really hope that you check out my free writing course if you're a writer. It's available in my bio. So if you're creative looking for a series of guidance, I have like a free mini course called Write Your Book in 1 year, and it will send you, I think, a series of 10 emails spread out over 2 days, and with all these amazing mindset prompts and writing prompts for you to start your creative journey. Or if you're a reader and you just want the book, this is her. She is gorgeous. One last look. You have to get your own. And thank you so much for tuning in, and please send me any questions you have. If you do get a copy of Napper, please tell me what you think. And I want to give a big shout out to people who sign up to be my early readers. You know who you are. Thank you so much from the depth of my heart. Thank you so much. So yeah, bye.